My biggest fear is now coming, the deep fake, which, the sound synthesis, where, they can like impersonate, your CFO or CEOs or anybody of your employees, your marketing officers or, or leadership, and ask you to take some action.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to this episode of the Sonic Sling podcast. Today, I don't want to butcher your name. I'm going to have you say it. What did you,
I go
what
with
do
the
you go by?
Suba, Adam.
Suba. Okay, perfect. Yeah, it's a very unique name. I just want to make sure out of respect, I make sure I say it correctly. So I appreciate you, Suba, for coming on the show, my man.
Yeah, thank you very much, Adam. I'm looking forward to, to talk with you on the topic of cybersecurity as well.
Yeah, so why don't you kind of start this off by telling us a little bit about yourself, your background, and then we'll get started from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for that. So I've been in the industry for like more than 20 years, which including, various highly compliance industry, which is pharmaceutical, biotech. Also, I have an opportunity to work for a bank also like Citigroup in the past 20 years back, and also high tech electronics. So most of my career has been highly compliance and regulated industry, especially the pharmaceutical, as you can name that, where you are driven by compliances, whether it's an FDA, now GDPR, CCA, uh, uh, and then SEC also the publicly traded company. So, and also globally, and my experience was also global. So it's been a global experience, where you have to comply with not only with the North America, but also with the European Union, Asia Pacific, So I've been like, been a head of IT, and managing the gamut of IT, which includes the application management, cybersecurity and infrastructure, program PMO management. Uh, as I mentioned, so compliances, compliances is also one of the biggest vertical as that infrastructure management as an holistic, and you name it, and especially with the technology coming with an AI driven, getting into AI drug development and also the technology coming in, life science biotech industry as such. So being in the industry for so long, I have seen that, the various piece of, how cybersecurity has become, a biggest threat to every sector of the industry, especially the life science, pharma, high tech, electronic as such. So there it goes, like, being get an opportunity to work also, implemented, solutions in 50 countries for working an opportunity for a global company. So I know what it takes, to secure, not only like, North America, but also like, how you deal with, the security breaches coming from China, for an examples, like East European country, Latin America, as various examples,
Very cool. Okay, so in the pharmaceutical space, right? So, the biggest thing right now is technology is evolving in such a fast, rapid movement because of AI and all these new developments. How is that affecting your industry from both the security perspective, the hackers perspective, just overall, how is it changing it? How is it evolving it? What would you say about that?
Yeah, so it is like, very challenging, and especially with the cloud, now everything has been cloud. Your partners are getting into the cloud. People thinks cloud is like cloud. It's actually sitting in somebody's data centers, who's managing your security. So you need to also need to know who's accessing the data, uh, for the time being. There are also internal threat and external threats, And one of the major challenges in the pharma industry is like, they are constantly trying to get into your data, your intellectual property as such, ransomware is the biggest threat, where they can keep you hold on it, right? A lot of companies like, especially in medical, or healthcare service providers, where doctor couldn't operate because the data has been hacked, ransomware, where they don't have, enough informations to do a surgery on a patient, as an example. In life science and drugs, they can take, intellectual property and can like, do a ransomware. So it's become a very challenging for the IT to safeguard, the data, and also not only the data, also like protecting from like a deep fake AI, like people impersonating, the voice of for an example, like your CEOs and says that, okay, a payment has to be made, So constantly training, these are the tools and the technology coming in, which is creating, a lot of challenges for IT because people are not tech savvy. The lot of employees are not tech savvy, right? And when you have a barrage of email coming into to an email, and where people mistakenly click a link and bring software which can be maliciously harmful across the environment and create. So these are the challenges I see, is a very robust, especially when you're sharing your data with your partners, with your CROs, clinical research. So the challenge is immense, and the way it's to mitigate is to constantly training.
So, and then from speaking of training, can you kind of expand on that? Like, what's your process to making sure things are constantly up to date?
So yeah, so I always consider human is the weakest and the strongest link. When the weakest link is that when they click something, and the strongest link is when they found something. As you know that there are so many tools in place which is trying to protect, but there's no silver bullet to protect from this
Mhm.
link, and it can goes through in. So so the main thing is to train people is to constantly remind them, be careful, be watchful, don't take an actions when there is somebody is trying to rush you, somebody wants to do it, even if you see something, if you see something wrong, just think around, stop, and then report something which you are unaware of it. So uh what I see that human brain is very volatile, as such. They don't remember even if you're training. So the one thing which I figure it out, constantly train them. Even if you send, something, which is repetitive, repeat it. Repeat it, because the brain, the more you train the brain, the more brain. Some people might find it's irritating, because some people are smart, but all five fingers are not equal. Like all people are not equal, of learning the graph. Some people might be annoying. Oh, I have seen this. Why you are sending it to me? My explanation is that you are not alone. There are some people who likes to be trained, who like to be seen, and that's what constantly training, constantly training. And it's not means you remind every week, sending uh, a newsletter, cybersecurity thread reminding. As you know that half of the people doesn't read that anything coming from the IT, if it is too technical. So try to give more graphical way to present people, where you make some cartoon or pictures and make them people enlightenment to see that what you're trying to convey the message to the end user. The moment you start typing too much of waddy email or muddy waddy, I mean to say too much of word in the email, they might not read it. So
Mm,
the more you have to be a little creative, to train people, what is the best way you can send the message across them.
mm.
So that's
Interesting.
the
Yeah.
constant training, and I found that without the training, especially high tech, it's okay, you have software engineers sitting there, but especially for where doctors, physicians are there, and people from a non-tech, I felt you have to constantly train, constantly remind them people.
So it's there's really no straight answer. It's like you got to be creative all the time with like how you do things, huh?
Exactly. You're absolutely right. There is no straight answer. I wish there is a straight answer for that, because, as I mentioned, like five fingers are not same. People are not equal. People have some people have a high grasping power. Some people has a less. Some people are visually want to remind. Some people like to read. So not all people are equal. So you need to find the weakest, where the weakest point are, and try to make your weakest point as a strong point, how you deliver your message. So the more the message goes to the people, the more creative you can be, it remind. I can tell you that we constantly telling people not to be careful, and people still do a quarterly or a, monthly phishing test. The same people are clicking the link
Mm.
and
That's funny.
constantly training them, so what you can
Yeah,
do, so
yeah, yeah. So from it's interesting, I guess, from like an end user's perspective, if someone's listening to this, just to take I'm going off of just this conversation, right? Just to take a little turn on this conversation. What are the things that you should not do to make sure you don't get hacked? Like,
oh
tell me a couple of the obvious stuff, and then maybe some things that maybe don't people don't know.
Yeah, I think most of the things has been well communicated across the industry because your bank have been doing something like I always says that whenever you get something fishy or even if you don't know something coming, don't react. Stop immediately. Don't react. Think about that like your financial institutions, your IT department is not going to call you or send you a fake something especially like the hack is more in the financial sectors and ransomware type or somebody try to take okay. I think these are all common now. Oh, go to the Walmart and get a card for me. Those has becomes but read and see what's going in the environment. So to answer to the end user, I my simple question is the security is a journey for everybody. Like like you protect your home, see that you're protecting your personal equipment. Same like the electronic device need to be protected, whether it's your organization stuff or your personal stuff. If any email comes, you don't know that the person, make sure you check, multiple times, before you respond. Don't don't panic and respond.
Mm.
Hold on, think over, sleep over it sometimes. If you're not sure, then try to reach out the people who know that in that organization, whether it's a financial institutions, whether your company, somebody might have impersonated you. My biggest fear is now coming, the deep fake, which the sound synthesis where they can like impersonate your CFO or CEOs voice, or anybody of your employees, your marketing officers or or leadership, and ask you to take some action.
Mm.
And in those kind of situations, like if you don't know, make sure even if your CEOs or CFO get annoyed, or your bank get annoyed, don't be scared. You are just protecting not only yourself but also protecting the organizations. Make sure you check with them that is this a real thing coming to you. Is this the somebody they authorize you to do some action to be taken like I know sometimes people are scared. Oh, it comes from the big elite person. I need to take action. No, don't take anything as such. It become very bad nowadays. Constantly like something going on. And you also if your managers or leaders ask you the questions or your teachers just try to educate them like I'm sorry I cannot take an actions unless I'm 100% sure. I
Mm.
understand the urgency, but if something goes wrong, I would be penalized. And the world, I wish, the world would have been safer, but unfortunately, it is not. So to answer the questions like, be watchful, don't take any actions, be thoughtful to you, always be looking around, not only like, electronic device, also surrounding because cybersecurity can be a physical threat. Somebody can walk behind you inside your organization and can create a harm. So it's a both way, and but it's internal and external. So don't take any actions in a rush. That's the I think I will give you end user this
Don't take any actions in a rush.
rush.
Okay, so if something looks fishy and something looks weird, it probably is.
Yeah, most likely fishes, because you don't expect like Department of Justice or the IRS will call you or social security as an example, right? So be careful on those calls, fake calls. uh, these are the calls, they are impersonating this our institution, because an IRS will never call you to pay your money to the IRS check as an example, or your um, any other means of type of government agency is not going to do that, or your banking financial institution will call you and says that you have to transfer this money or your money is hacked. Make sure you check with them multiple times.
It's interesting. So can you if you are able to maybe share with us a story or a time where something like something did happen where some hacker did get through and how you were able to work around it, or if you have no story, then maybe explain to us from your perspective if somebody does get hacked, how do they make sure to stay safe from there?
Yeah, so it's constantly like I've been in the industry for so long and I'm seeing so many hacking coming through, and we are protecting with the tools. The first thing like God forbid you got hacked, or where the root cause or the where it started, that's why, I always say training is an important thing, because I always tell my employees or the users, end user, that if you see something wrong coming, just report us immediately. And this is a perfect example happen, like in my career, that something unseen happens, and it comes like a barrage of email coming across to that person. The email security gateway was unable to stop it, because the script has been written, they are taking, all nice domains, which the email gateway cannot stop, because it's passing all the DKM, DMARC, you name it, SPF record. So they're pretty good spooping you, but also they're sending, some bad things with that, as a domain. So first thing I will say that, stop that, the immediately, like, isolate the immediately if you come to know, because all the tools which you have, they are immediately reporting you, whether you use the end user tools, or you have a sim tools in place. They can able to figure it out. If they are unable to figure it out, then there is some configurations wrong, or something is not done. So at this point, and if you don't have anything, then I think somebody cannot help it, but most of the companies are using, like, endpoint security tools, server security tools, antivirus, malware virus, and EDR, XDR. I believe, like, most of the companies are doing now. Maybe some company may not, but if something happens, like, to answer your questions, I said that immediately, like, take that system out of the network, isolate it, and ground it, where it start from. The day the immediately when you get the notice, then, start doing your forensic do. The moment you take it, immediately out, you are saving, the lot of damage, bigger damage, so you can have that, that one machine is damaged, but take it off immediately, off the network, off the internet, just disable, all the connection as such, and then start your forensic. As an example, like, there are certain things, which you cannot stop, like, when an email barrage comes, even, your security company can stop it, the email gateway, whether you use, Minecraft, Proofpoint type of solutions. In that case, you create a policy, what the hackers are trying to say. Look at the various characteristic of the email coming through, and use the filter to block it.
Mm.
And because then that is the main thing I've seen in the past, that, throwing that barrage, one of our user got impacted also, because he or she tried to, like, delete the file, click a link, and immediately that the ransomware program executed and tried to capture it. So to answer your question is, like, make it isolated. The system which was impacted, immediately take off the network, may not bring it up at all, replace it immediately with something else, from your DR or disaster recovery, and then look into, because all these email securities or your endpoint security tools or antivirus tools gives, tools to do a forensic, analysis for that, of your devices. So start doing that and see where the actors happens, and if something happens, to answer the other sense, if the damage is already done, the best thing is to, like, take everything off the network, make sure start running, scanning your entire network and say that, where you can mitigate any further damage, try to isolate, any other tools, or your computer system got impacted out from that, and just, separate it also through a different VLAN, and put into a separate VLAN of your network, and try to do and block it everything, like from the accessing to internet, access to power also. Maybe it can be sometimes, good to, like, completely switch off the power, so that it
Mm.
doesn't connect to anything as such. You doesn't know, like, a lot of devices now have, like, Wi-Fi capability to connect, as such. So one way or other, I will say that, just uh, make sure that, you isolate that devices, make sure, you locate where it is, first, and then go from there, step approach. And this kind of things takes time. It's not like immediate, because you don't know, you don't want to impact the entire business, or your entire system, but also that risk, put into the IT security team, how to tackle it.
Hmm. No, I agree. I think it's important to have a plan, though. It's to understand how to handle certain situations.
Yeah.
Um, so real, and, my final question, and I appreciate your, participation in this. If someone's looking to, and I love asking this question because I think it's so important from a perspective of a new person coming into security, um, what tools and resources should they have to succeed in the healthcare space?
Okay, so in the healthcare place, I think the first of the thing, they need to better understand. It takes a time a little bit, but I think it's a part of the progressive life as they get into the healthcare space to get used to all those compliance training. Because that is the key things. A lot of compliance are driving your security aspect. So get into, and I think when they join any organizations, they will be trained a lot of compliances. These are part of like the standard operating procedures as such. Coming to the security tools like that, I believe it's been a standard now. Some of the tools I can immediately name it, like SIEM tools, but you can use in a managed service provider as endpoint device security as such, cloud security like CASB. Which is a key component. Like if you want to access, like for Salesforce.com, you need to make sure that you can connect through your private network rather than going through a cloud, through cloud access secure brokerage as a cloud gateway. So
Mm-hmm.
these are the key component. Like you always need to make sure that you understand those terms, and how to deploy these terms. The company has already started building the security tools in place. It's now getting mature, like especially the cloud access security brokerage. It's been getting mature by a lot of companies are coming. Cisco, this company are a little behind the game, but they're catching up. Some of the other companies are well ahead of the game because of people working remotely. You need to make sure that people working from home has the similar experience and access like they're working in a corporate building. So that person who coming into this, need to understand the whole, like for the compliance, because all the tools he or she will be applying has to be aligned with those compliances and the standard operating procedures as such. Because all this compliance company, they don't care what you do, they want to understand your process and the policy. Do you have a risk mitigation policy? Do you have a disaster policy? Do you have a business continuity policy? Do you have, like incident management policy? So once you understand those things, and how will we address that, tools are there. A person can learn, google it out and says that, okay, this is a CASB tool, this is like CrowdStrike as an example, a Sentinel One tool, I can deploy it. This is a SIEM tool. So I think that is easy for them, but how you align with them in healthcare industry is like you understand all those compliance, the HIPAA compliances, the FDA compliances, the SCC compliances, which has now become more stringent. You have to report to FDA within 48 hours if your company get compromised as such. So those are the things you need to, and that will help you to build the tool, because you have to address those. How, if you got hacked, how will you report this to in 48 hours or 72 hours, like GDPR? Like any compromise happens, so you need to make sure that you have that tool to report back.
Hmm. Hmm. I appreciate your insights on everything, Suba. I think this has been like really interesting. The healthcare space is so intrinsic. There's so much to it, right? So it's like, every time I talk to somebody who's in healthcare, they always have a different perspective because there's just so much happening all the time, and security is probably like a very important thing. Which, in other industries, security kind of takes a backseat. This is one of those industries where it's kind of sitting up front. But where can people find you online if they want to look you up?
Oh, in LinkedIn, I'm in
Okay.
LinkedIn, so uh, it's LinkedIn at Subha Dhar, in the
Okay.
LinkedIn,
All right.
yeah.
Okay. Okay, Suba. Well, I appreciate you so much for hopping on today's podcast. It's been a real pleasure talking to you. I would love, I mean, this is like, I feel like talking to you can go on for couple hours, but we like to keep our episodes a
No,
little shorter.
absolutely no. No,
So,
I enjoy talking with you, Adam, and these are the great questions, I think there is no, well, like you said also, there is no perfect answers, it's changing. It's
yeah,
so
that's why we
changing,
have we have so many
Yeah,
different episodes because like everyone has a
yeah.
different perspective, you know.
Different perspective,
Yeah.
and everybody has a different experience also dealing
Yes,
with,
yes,
and I
yes.
think that's what, you're doing a great job, like, getting everybody's experience and perspective together and brainstorming and to see that, where, the way you're helping people, like, I think is amazing, so
I
thank you
appreciate
for
that,
that,
Subha.
yeah, yeah.
Thank you, thank you. And for everybody that's watching, if you guys enjoyed, please remember to leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. All right, have a good day.
Thank you, Adam,